Hi, my name is Nora, and throughout the summer I've been learning how to code and the basics of Python. And with this channel, I plan to help you learn and maybe even see the potential of coding. Now, if you're a complete beginner, you may be wondering what is coding or what is Python. So coding is the process of writing a specific process or program for a computer or interpreter to use. And computers, in my opinion, are one of the most amazing things humanity has created because the use of computers are literally limitless and they are specifically designed not to do just one job. Programming is what allows the uses of computers to be limitless. And programs are basically just a clear set instructions for the computer to execute. So what is Python? Python is a general purpose, high level programming language. Now, what does that mean? Basically what that means is that it's kind of specifically designed to be easily read and easy to implement, but it's considered a high level language because it has a lot of functions and uses. Now, I also want to explain what an IDE is, and if you done a little bit of research, you might have seen that term. IDE means Integrated Development Environment. They're basically text editors, and the ones I kind of recommend for Python especially are Pythonista. So that's something for Apple, Mac. You can even get on your iPad or iPhone. You can code on that, and that's pretty cool. The only downside to it, it's pretty expensive for an app. It's $10, but I honestly think it's worth it. And another one is Notebook++. It's like Notepad, but you can code in a lot of languages, and coding in Python is really cool. A con is that it's kind of difficult to set up, but don't worry, I'll make a video on that on how to set it up. And I'm still adding to the list of IDEs I recommend, but as I explore more text editors, I'll add to the list in the description. I'll cover those in more detail in a later video. I want to talk about the difference between strings and integers. Okay, so strings are basically just a set of characters, and that the computer interprets as just a character, just a string of characters. So, for example, a phrase can be a string, but also numbers can be converted to a string. And to convert something to a string, you can either put quotation marks, or you can use the command str, which stands for string, and the parentheses over whatever you want. Now, integers are basically just whole numbers. Characters like A, B, and C, they can't become integers because they're not a number. And a symbol to make a string an integer is int and then parentheses. And a number is automatically assumed to be an integer. So if you wanted to make it a string, you would have to specify it to be a string. Another thing I forgot to mention is float. Float is very similar to integer. It's numbers that have a decimal to it. So 36.04. That is a float number, and that can be considered an integer. To convert something to a float number, it would be spelled float, F-L-O-A-T, and then parentheses. Now we're going to finally start writing your first program. Okay, so in the editor that you see, we're going to use the command print to print out something in the console. So basically, the console, I forgot to explain, but the console is your end product of your program. So after you click run on your code, then the console will print out the end result. So in the code, what you want to use is the command print. So type print, and then parentheses, and then whatever term. I'm going to use hello world because that's usually what people write first. Now I said print hello world, and I'm going to run it. And as you can see in the console, it prints hello world. Good job, you just made your first program. Okay. Now let's say we wanted to print a variable, for example. Now, yes, variables are also in math, but variables also can be used in Python. And variables are basically just small storages of code or of information. So you can set whatever you want to a variable. You can set it to a number, a string, a float number, a Boolean value, which I will get on in a later video, but basically a Boolean value is true or false. Now, let's say I'm gonna use the variable n. N equals, you have to use that equal sign. N equals a string, let's say, hello world again. Now, what we're gonna do is that instead of we having to type hello world again, we can use the command print, and then we can just type in n, because we already defined the variable, and so we can just use the variable and print that variable and what's contained in that variable, which is that string. So run, and it just printed hello world. Let's say you wanted to print a string and a number. So what you would do is do print, and then let's say yay, my code worked for the 3rd time. And you click run. Oh shoot, syntax error. So basically what a syntax error is basically just an error that is found in the code so the program can't run. So if you ever get that, then you know something's wrong with your code and you have to reread it. Spelling and the functions that you use and the specific quotation marks or like the symbols you use are very important. If you misspell them, the computer will just not know what to do. And as you can see, oh, I forgot quotation marks. That's a really common thing, so we can just add quotation marks. And it should work now. Nice, yay, my code worked for the 3rd time. Now, let's say you wanted to print a variable with a predetermined string. So let's say you had, your program spit out the number 5. So n equals 5. And let's say you want to say John had 5 apples. Print John had, but okay, so we want to print out the variable number. So how would we do that without writing the number 5 in the string? What we can do is add the quotation mark. And instead of writing just n, you would write plus n and then plus. What is that telling? What's that telling the program is that, oh, I have a string, but I want to add the variable into the middle of that string and then continue it on later. And so we can add more quotation marks, another space, apples. Now we can run this. Oh, okay, we had another syntax error. The syntax error this time is that, you see n right here? N is technically perceived to the program as an integer. Now, the program thinks we're just adding an integer to the string in the middle of the string, and that cannot work. Now, the way we make 5 a string is make n a string. So what we can do is go here and then use the command string, and boom, n is a string. 5 is now considered a string. 5 is now interpreted as a string. Now we should click run. John has 5 had. That's my bad, that's a grammar error. John has 5 apples. Yep, there we go. So yeah, that's the basics of printing, and I hope to go into more in detail in later videos and teach you guys some other programs, so maybe show you some examples of what I've created. And I hope you took something away from this. I'll see, until next time, I'll be signing off. Bye guys.